Do you know how America's most prestigious address turns commanders-in-chief into wealth magnates? It's a startling reality that might change how you see American politics. In today's video, we'll explore how some of America's former commanders-in-chief have turned their years from presidential duties to million-dollar empires. Stay tuned as we unravel the truth behind the opulence of ex-presidents. Number 1. Former American presidents' benefits and perquisites. The Former Presidents Act of 1958 is like a VIP pass for life after the Oval Office. These former leaders get a pension that's the same as a cabinet secretary's pay. That was $221,400 in 2021. And if that's not enough, the widows of former presidents get $20,000 annually. They get lifetime Secret Service protection too. Plus, 6 months after leaving office, they get to set up their own official office, fully funded wherever they want in the US. We're talking office space, staff, travel expenses, the whole thing. But the twist is, Congress can play around with these benefits. They have the power to hike them up, trim them down, or just keep things steady. They're even considering capping the presidential pension at $200,000 and cutting back on other goodies. It's not just a job. It's a lifelong pass to some incredibly awesome advantages. Number 2. Transition to wealth accumulation. The story of a former US president, it's way more fascinating than you might think. Back in the day, believe it or not, these guys often struggled with money after leaving the White House. Some even had to sell their stuff or rely on friends just to make ends meet. But that's old news. Enter the Former Presidents Act of 1958. This thing is a game changer. It's like winning a Lifetime Achievement Award with benefits. They can choose to have Secret Service protection for life. How cool is that? Now, let's talk about making a bank after the presidency. It's kind of a trend these days. Take Bill Clinton and George W. Bush, for example. These guys didn't just retire and chill. They wrote books, ran foundations, and gave speeches to keep the cash flowing. But we don't always get to know how much they're making. It's like a top secret mission, except it's about their bank accounts. So being a former president today isn't just about kicking back and reminiscing. It's about new adventures, making a difference, and yes, keeping those dollar bills rolling in. It's a whole new world for these ex-leaders. Number 3. Case studies of ex-presidents. Let's dive into something super interesting. What do US presidents do to make bank after they leave the White House? It's a fascinating shift from their time as commander-in-chief, where they pull in a cool $400,000 a year, get to chill at the White House for free, and have a budget for all the fancy stuff like travel and entertainment. But here's the game changer. They often rake in way more cash once they step out of office. Hitting the stage is when former presidents get big bucks for speeches and public appearances. For example, as of 2017, Barack Obama could snag up to $400,000 for just one speaking gig. Bill Clinton and George W. Bush have also made a pretty penny from these gigs. Book deals are huge, too. Presidents often pen memoirs post-presidency, and publishers are more than happy to pay top dollar. Barack and Michelle Obama's deal with Penguin Random House was a whopping $60 million. Before them, Bill Clinton set a record with a deal worth about $14 million. In today's dollars, the amount is about $21 million. George W. Bush got a sweet $10 million for his memoir. Also, former presidents are getting trendy with brand deals. The Obamas teamed up with Netflix to produce shows and even jumped onto Spotify with a podcast series. Bill Clinton's also hopping on the podcast train with a deal announced in 2019. Lastly, some ex-presidents join corporate boards or grab honorary titles, which can be pretty lucrative. Bill Clinton, for instance, made $18 million as an honorary chancellor and over $12 million working with investor Ron Burkle. So, leaving the White House doesn't mean kicking back and relaxing. These former presidents keep hustling, and the paycheck is pretty impressive. Number 4. Comparative analysis. Now here, check this out. Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama each had their own money story after being president. Before the White House, it was a mixed bag. Clinton was drowning in debt, Bush was rolling in dough as a businessman, and Obama was doing all right as a U.S. senator. They all pocketed $400,000 a year as president. But the real financial fireworks started after they left office. Clinton and Bush turned into best-selling authors with their memoirs. Both My Life by Clinton and Decision Points by Bush scored them a sweet $15 million advance each. Obama wasn't left behind either. His memoir, A Promised Land, also hit the jackpot with an estimated $15 million advance. And then Clinton and Bush made serious bank here, sometimes pulling in up to $200,000 for a single speech. Here's the fascinating part. Their paths to wealth were so different. Bush, already loaded before his presidency, just kept adding more zeros to his bank account. Clinton, once in the red, made a huge financial comeback. And Obama, starting from a more modest place, skyrocketed into big earnings with his post-presidency moves. It's about what happens next. For these three, it meant writing their next chapters in some pretty impressive dollar signs. Number 5. Impact and criticism. The whole trend of ex-US presidents getting rich after their terms is stirring up quite a debate. Former presidents are cashing in big time with speeches, book deals, and joining corporate boards. It's a scene that's got people talking. Critics are raising their eyebrows. They're worried that all this money-making could look a bit shady and maybe even sway political decisions. The big concern is that these megabucks could create conflicts of interest and chip away at how much people trust the government. Think about it. A former president influencing big decisions because of their deep pockets. But there's another side to this point. There are people who are totally okay with former presidents making their fortunes. Their point is that these guys have the right to make a living after their presidential gig, and it's not just about the money. They argue that these former leaders can use their experience for good, like pushing important causes and bringing their know-how to the business world. Now the question is, does all this post-presidency wealth give these guys too much political power? Some say it's like they've got their hands on the steering wheel of policy making. Others think that's stretching it, saying that even with all that cash, they're still playing by the same rules as everyone else. So yeah, this topic is a real conversation about power, money, and what it means for politics once you've left the Oval Office. Number 6, global perspective. Exploring the post-leadership lives of former heads of state around the world reveals a captivating array of paths they take after their tenure. Unlike the United States, where former presidents often continue wielding influence and power, other nations present a diverse spectrum of experiences for their ex-leaders. In some countries, former leaders face stringent restrictions on their political activities. Imagine being a former head of state and not being able to hold any public office or even serve in government positions. This starkly contrasts with the US, where former presidents not only engage in political activities, but can also serve as advisors or even contemplate a return to office. The transition in other nations can be more nuanced, involving a gradual shift of roles within the government or society. Meanwhile, the US smooths this transition through the Former President's Act of 1958, which offers perks like lifetime Secret Service protection and funding for office space and staff. This global comparison also sheds light on the distinctive features of the U.S. political system. For instance, the U.S.'s high income and wealth inequality have been linked to the rise of populist leaders like President Donald Trump. This suggests that the economic and political backdrop of the country can significantly shape the post-presidential journey. Thus, examining the post-leadership paths across different countries offers a broader perspective on the myriad experiences and challenges faced by former leaders. While the U.S. has a unique tradition of supporting and empowering its ex-presidents, other countries' approaches are molded by their distinct political, economic, and cultural landscapes. This rich tapestry of global leadership transitions presents a fascinating study in contrasts and similarities. Do you believe the financial opportunities available to ex-presidents after their tenure in the White House are justified, or should there be more restrictions? Share your thoughts in the comments below. To receive updates on our most recent content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell icon. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.